The lock clicks open with a sound too loud in the silence of the house. I frown, glancing at my watch. 3:30. I'm home early, a rare occurrence this week, and I'm already dreading the domestic chores I'll need to tackle. My wife, Lydia, is usually still at work by now, but her sudden absence could only mean one thing, an early exit, which in turn means, I don't know. My mind is caught between curiosity and an unsettling premonition as I push the door open. I step inside, the house cool and quiet. Lydia's purse is still hanging on the coat rack, and her shoes are neatly placed by the door. A sense of something being off prickles the back of my neck, but I dismiss it, heading towards the kitchen. Then I hear it, a muffled moan, and not the kind that makes you think of affection. It's something raw and desperate. My heart thuds heavily as I move toward the source of the sound, the bedroom. My breath catches in my throat as I push open the door. The sight that meets me is so surreal, it takes a moment for my brain to process what I'm seeing. Lydia is tied to our bed, her wrists bound above her head with silk scarves. She's naked, her skin glistening with a sheen of sweat. But the most shocking part is the man in the black robe, draped in shadows, holding a lit candle. The wax drips slowly, splotching Lydia's skin with hot, molten streaks. No. I gasp, barely managing to keep my voice steady. Lydia's eyes snap open, wide and filled with panic as they land on me. The man in the robe turns, his face obscured by the hood. He moves with the deliberate grace of someone who's completely in control, and in that moment, I feel a surge of rage like never before. Lydia's pleas, muffled under her breath, grow more desperate as the man lets the wax fall closer to her. He leans in, his tongue flicking out to taste the remnants of wax and explore her. Stop it! I shout, the word echoing off the walls like a physical blow. The man's head jerks up, his hooded face turning towards me, revealing nothing but shadow. Lydia's eyes dart from him to me, a mixture of shame and fear. Please, James, let me explain. Lydia's voice is shaky, her breath coming in ragged bursts. She struggles against her bonds, but they only tighten. The man's lips curve into a mocking smile as he stands up, revealing a lean but muscular frame. You shouldn't have come home early, he says, his voice smooth, almost amused. You've interrupted something quite delicate. My fists clench at my sides. Get away from her, I command, advancing toward him. The man doesn't move, just stands there with an air of detached amusement. Lydia's face is red with a mixture of anger and humiliation. James, No, Lydia, I cut her off, the betrayal slicing through me like a knife. I don't want to hear it. Not now. I grab the nearest object, a lamp from the bedside table, and brandish it as if it could somehow erase the image before me. The man doesn't flinch, but he does raise an eyebrow, as if considering whether this is worth his time. I think, he says slowly, that you should leave. This is not your place anymore. My mind races, the betrayal and humiliation melding into a cold, calculating fury. I need to think, to plan. But before I can act, the man steps closer to Lydia, his hand brushing lightly against her cheek in a gesture that is both tender and grotesque. Get out! I yell again, but my voice is hollow, carrying the weight of a shattered heart. Lydia's eyes are pleading now. James, please. Just give me a chance to explain. I'm sorry. But the words are lost in the din of my fury. I turn on my heel and storm out, slamming the door behind me. I hear Lydia's muffled sobs and the man's soft, almost clinical response, but I don't stop. I need to get out, to breathe, to find some semblance of control before I act. As I sit in my car, the engine running but the vehicle stationary, my mind races through a haze of plans and revenge. I need to reclaim my life, my dignity, and I need to start by tearing down what's left of theirs. The raw pain inside me is a driving force, propelling me towards an inevitable confrontation. This is only the beginning. The truth is, if Lydia thought this was the end, she was mistaken. This was just the start of a new chapter, one where I rebuild myself, exact my revenge, and reclaim my pride. And Lydia would soon learn that betrayal comes with a steep price. I drive aimlessly, the cold night air pouring through the open windows of my car. My mind is a tangled mess of rage and despair, every turn of the road mirroring the turmoil within. I finally pull over at a small, dimly lit diner on the outskirts of town. The neon sign flickers sporadically, casting an eerie glow over the few late-night patrons scattered inside. I need to think, and more importantly, I need to talk to someone who can help me make sense of this chaos. Inside, I spot a booth in the corner and slump into it. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with a tired expression, approaches. "What can I get you?" she asks, her tone flat. "A coffee." "Black," I reply, my voice rough. She nods and shuffles off. I pull out my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I find Matt's number. Matt is my oldest friend, someone I've trusted with my life. He'll be able to help me, or at least talk me through this. "Hey, it's James," I say when he picks up. "I need to talk." "It's urgent." There's a pause on the other end. "James? What's wrong? Can you meet me at the diner on River Road? I need your help." "It's about Lydia." Matt's tone shifts from concern to alarm. "I'll be there in 20. I hang up, my fingers tapping impatiently on the table. The coffee arrives, but I barely notice it. My thoughts are consumed by what I saw, by the man in the black robe and Lydia's betrayal. Matt arrives as promised, his face etched with concern. He's a solid, dependable figure, exactly what I need right now. He slides into the booth across from me and looks me straight in the eye. "What's going on?" he asks, his gaze steady. I take a deep breath. "I came home early today. Lydia was with someone. Someone in a black robe. I swallow hard, dripping wax on her, then my voice breaks. He started pleasuring her." Matt's eyes widen. "Damn, James. I'm so sorry. Are you sure it was her? Could it have been someone else?" "It was her," I say firmly. I recognized her tattoos. "It was her." Matt leans back, rubbing his temples. "You've got to do something about this. You can't just let it slide." "I know. I'm not just going to let it go," I say, my voice tight. "But I need to figure out how to handle this. I need to strike back." Matt nods. "All right. What do you need?" "I need a plan," I say. "I need to find out who this guy is, what his connection to Lydia is. And I need to make sure Lydia knows that this isn't just going to blow over." Matt considers this, his expression thoughtful. "All right, let's start with what you know." And he picks up. "House? Anything that might point to who this guy is?" I didn't have time to look around, I admit. "I just left." "We'll go back there," Matt says decisively. "We'll see if we can find something, anything, that might give us a lead." I nod, feeling a surge of determination. "Okay. Let's do it." The drive back to my house is tense. Every streetlight seems to cast longer shadows, and every corner feels like it hides more secrets. Matt's presence is a small comfort, his calm demeanor balancing out my storm of emotions. When we arrive, the house is as silent and unwelcoming as before. The front door is slightly ajar, and I push it open cautiously. Inside, the house seems to have returned to its ordinary state, the echoes of earlier events hidden behind a veneer of normalcy. I head straight to the bedroom, Matt following closely. The sight of the bed, the ropes, and the wax stains makes my stomach churn. Matt examines the room, his gaze sweeping over every detail. "All right, look for anything out of place. Any personal items that might not belong to you or Lydia." I search the room, my hand shaking slightly as I go through drawers and nightstands. In one drawer, I find a small, leather-bound notebook. It's not Lydia's, it's too pristine, too new. I open it, flipping through pages filled with meticulous notes and diagrams. It's not a diary, but rather a series of appointments and contacts, many of which are unfamiliar to me. "Matt, look at this," I say, handing him the notebook. Matt skims through it. This looks like a contact list. There's a name here, Ethan Blackwood, and a number. I take the notebook back, staring at the name. Ethan Blackwood. That sounds like someone in the know. Maybe he's the guy in the robe. Matt nods. It's a lead. We should find out who this Ethan Blackwood is. I can do a background check, see if anything comes up. I glance around the room, my mind already racing ahead. I need to get my things together. I'm going to confront Lydia. I need to know why she did this and what she plans to do next. Matt's face hardens. Be careful, James. The drive back to you anymore. It's about getting to the bottom of this and making sure you come out on top. I nod, feeling a mix of resolve and anxiety. Thanks, Matt. I couldn't do this without you. Matt gives me a reassuring smile. We'll figure this out. We'll make sure Lydia and her mystery man pay for what they've done. As I prepare to face Lydia and unravel the mystery of Ethan Blackwood, I feel a cold clarity settle over me. This is more than just betrayal, it's a complex web of deceit that I'm determined to untangle. The journey ahead will be difficult, but I won't rest until I've restored my pride and discovered the full extent of Lydia's betrayal. The air is thick with tension as I pull up to Lydia's apartment building. It's a modern high-rise, sleek and impersonal, its glass facade reflecting the harsh light of the street lamps. My hands grip the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white with the strain. Matt is in the passenger seat, his face a mask of grim determination. You ready for this? Matt asks, his voice steady but carrying an edge of concern. I have to be, I reply, taking a deep breath. I need to hear it from her own mouth. I need to know why. Matt nods, bracing himself as we get out of the car. The elevator ride up to Lydia's floor is silent, both of us lost in our thoughts. When we reach her door, I hesitate for a moment, then knock firmly. The door swings open almost immediately, revealing Lydia standing in a silk robe, her face pale and eyes puffy from what looks like hours of crying. She seems startled but quickly masks it with a forced calm. James, she says, her voice trembling. I didn't expect you. We need to talk, I say flatly. Is that all right? She looks at Matt, who stands a few steps behind me, and then back at me. Come in. We step inside, the apartment's upscale interior contrasting sharply with the chaos of our situation. Lydia leads us to the living room, where she gestures for us to sit. I choose a spot on the edge of the couch, my eyes never leaving her face. Why? I demand, not bothering with pleasantries. Why was I walking in on you with another man? What's going on? Lydia's face crumples. She sits down across from us, wringing her hands in her lap. James, I didn't want you to find out like this. It's complicated. Complicated? Matt's voice cuts through sharply. You mean to say you had an affair and you think that's complicated? That's just betrayal. Lydia flinches but meets his gaze. It started out as something harmless. I met Ethan at a networking event. He seemed so different from you, exciting, unpredictable. We started seeing each other and then it just escalated. Escalated? I say, my voice rising. You were tied to our bed, Lydia. This wasn't just a fling. This was something serious. I know, she says, tears streaming down her cheeks. It got out of hand. I didn't want it to end like this. I'm sorry, James. You're sorry? I'm incredulous. That's it? You expect an apology to make this right? No, she says quickly. I want to make it right. I want to fix this. Ethan, he's dangerous. I was in over my head, and now I don't know how to get out. Matt's eyes narrow. Dangerous how? Lydia looks at Matt, then back at me. He's involved in things I don't fully understand. But he has connections. He's not just some guy who drips wax for fun. I was in too deep before I realized it. I'm silent for a moment, trying to process her words. And you think you can just come back and everything will be fine? No, she says earnestly. But I need your help. Ethan's not someone you can just walk away from. He's got influence, and if he feels threatened, he might come after you. I exchange a look with Matt, who seems equally perplexed but understanding. What exactly are you asking for, Lydia? I need you to help me get away from him, she says. I've got to disappear. I've already made arrangements. I just need to make sure he doesn't come after me or you. Matt looks at me, his expression thoughtful. We need to know more about this guy before we do anything. We need to find out what he's involved in and how to neutralize any threat he might pose. Agreed, I say. But Lydia, if we're going to help you, we need complete honesty. Tell us everything you know about Ethan and his connections. Lydia takes a deep breath, her face a mixture of fear and resolve. Ethan's involved in a lot of things. He's got connections in various industries, business, politics, even the underground. I don't know the full extent, but he's not someone to mess with lightly. He's got people working for him who handle situations. Matt leans forward, his gaze intense. And what about the wax? Why the rituals? I think it was his way of asserting control, Lydia explains, her voice trembling. It started as a kink but grew into something more symbolic, perhaps. He used it to manipulate me, to make me feel trapped and dependent. My anger simmers beneath the surface. So what's the plan? How do we handle this? Lydia looks at me, her eyes pleading. You need to get me away from here and make sure Ethan doesn't find out. I've already arranged for a safe place, but it's not foolproof. If he knows I'm trying to leave, he might retaliate. Matt nods. All right. We'll help you, but we need to do this carefully. First, let's find out more about Ethan Blackwood and his network. We'll use the notebook and any other information we can dig up. Lydia nods gratefully. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you for this. Let's just focus on getting out of this mess, I say. Afterward, we'll talk about what comes next. As Lydia begins to pack a few essentials, Matt and I step aside to make a plan. The weight of the situation is heavy, but the urgency propels us forward. We need to act quickly, to shield Lydia from Ethan's reach and to uncover the full scope of his influence. I glance at Lydia, seeing her in a new light, once the woman I loved, now a key player in a dangerous game. As we prepare to confront Ethan and untangle this web of deceit, I'm driven by a single thought: I will restore my pride and bring justice to this chaotic situation, no matter what it takes. The night is heavy with tension as Lydia, Matt, and I prepare for the final confrontation. We've gathered what little we know about Ethan Blackwood and his operations. With Matt's connections and resources, we've managed to track Ethan to a warehouse on the edge of town, a place reputed to handle less than legal affairs. Lydia, nervous but resolute, is ready to face whatever comes next. We've arranged for her to be taken to a safe house afterward, but first, we need to confront Ethan and ensure she's no longer at risk. The warehouse is an imposing structure, dark and foreboding, nestled away from the prying eyes of the city. We approach cautiously, the sound of our footsteps muffled by the damp, chilly night. I signal Matt to stay alert as we move to the side of the building, where a small, grimy window offers a view into the interior. Inside, we see Ethan in his black robe, standing in the center of what looks like a makeshift office. Papers, files, and a few scattered candles litter the room, and Ethan is engaged in a conversation with a tall, menacing figure whose face is obscured by the shadows. Stay here, I whisper to Matt and Lydia. I'm going in. Matt nods, his eyes sharp. Be careful, James. I ease open the window, slipping inside with practiced stealth. The interior is dimly lit, and the murmur of voices grows clearer as I approach. Ethan and his associate are discussing what sounds like a transaction, but the details are lost to the murkiness of the conversation. As I inch closer, Ethan's voice cuts through the static. I need this dealt with before it gets out of hand. If James and Lydia are meddling, we need to make sure they're removed from the equation. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut. Ethan knew all along. The danger Lydia was in was not just about her personal safety, it was a carefully orchestrated manipulation. The betrayal cuts deeper now, and my resolve hardens. I step into view, my voice steady and cold. Ethan. Both Ethan and his associate turn, surprise, and then recognition flashing across their faces. Ethan's eyes narrow as he sees me. James. I should have known you'd come crawling back. What's going on here, Ethan? I demand. Was this all a game to you? Lydia was just a pawn? Ethan smirks, his demeanor unfazed. You see, James, Lydia was never just a pawn. She was a means to an end. And now that you're here, we can deal with you both at once. Lydia bursts into the room, her face flushed with fear and anger. James, please, just listen. I didn't know the full extent of what Ethan was involved in. I was manipulated. Ethan's associate moves toward Lydia with a predatory grace, but I step between them. No more games, Ethan. What's the endgame here? Ethan's smile widens. It's simple. We're removing obstacles. You and Lydia are just that, obstacles. Lydia's betrayal was part of a larger scheme. She was meant to lure you in so that we could handle you both at once. A surge of anger fuels me. You used her to get to me. And now, you think you can just walk away from this? Ethan's eyes flash with cold amusement. You're out of your depth, James. And now, you're about to find out what happens when you meddle in things you don't understand. Before I can react, Ethan's associate lunges at me, and a brief but fierce struggle ensues. I manage to fend him off, but it's clear that Ethan has planned for contingencies. Lydia, still standing by the door, watches in horror as the scene unfolds. Matt suddenly bursts through the entrance, his face grim. He's holding a taser, which he quickly deploys on Ethan's associate, sending him crumpling to the ground. Ethan's expression darkens as he sees Matt. You're too late. The deal is already in motion. In the ensuing chaos, Lydia tries to make a break for it, but Ethan grabs her arm, pulling her back. You're not going anywhere, he snarls. I step in, forcing Ethan to release Lydia. You're done, Ethan. Ethan's face contorts with rage. This isn't over. You have no idea what you've just gotten yourself into. With Ethan's associate incapacitated and Ethan momentarily subdued, we managed to subdue him long enough for the authorities to arrive. The police, alerted by Matt's earlier call, take Ethan and his associate into custody. Lydia, now free of their immediate control, collapses into a chair, her face streaked with tears. I approach her, my heart a mix of relief and anger. Lydia, this is it. We're done. Lydia looks up, her eyes pleading. James, please. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was getting into. I never wanted any of this. I shake my head. You were a part of something dangerous, and you dragged me into it. You betrayed me in the worst way possible. I can't just forget that. Matt puts a hand on my shoulder, his expression sympathetic but resolute. We've done what we can. The rest is up to the authorities. As the police take Lydia and Ethan away, the weight of the situation settles heavily. I turn to Matt, feeling the exhaustion of the ordeal. Thank you, Matt. I couldn't have done this without you. Matt nods, his eyes reflecting the gravity of the situation. We've faced something horrible, but we're through it now. It's time for you to move on. The finality of Matt's words hits me hard. I watch as Lydia is escorted out, her face a mask of regret and defeat. As the door closes behind her, I realize that our lives are irrevocably changed. The trust we had is shattered, and the betrayal runs too deep to mend. Matt and I leave the warehouse, the cool night air a stark contrast to the heat of our confrontation. We drive back in silence, the road ahead a metaphor for the uncertain future. As the city lights fade behind us, I reflect on the cost of betrayal and the lengths people will go to manipulate others. I've regained my pride and exposed the deceit, but the scars will remain. For Lydia and me, there's no turning back. Our paths have diverged, and the trust that once bound us is irreparably broken. This is the end of one chapter, but the beginning of a new journey, one where the lessons learned will shape the future. The intrigue has been revealed, and with it comes the finality of a painful truth.